Welcome, dear audience. Welcome to the fourth FHIR training, which is a follow-up session of 3 sessions that we had before to give information and foster the usage of FHIR across Europe to consume data from medicinal products. As Neuwirther, I'm head of IT of the Austrian Medicines Agency, and together with Noel Diamant, the product owner for the topic we are talking about here today, from the Austrian agency, and Gianluca from the Spanish agency, Senior Development. We're happy to continue our journey through the FHIR training sessions. For today, I kindly ask you to have a look at the disclaimer of this training. For today, we have set up a quite interesting agenda. I will give a brief introduction about the topic and where we come from and what is the motivation about doing this. Then we will have information from Noel about references, so where to start reading, where to get information about this topic. Then we will get into the topic of today, the focus on understanding how changes of variations are reflected in the FHIR message. So Noel will explain the types of provenances and also together with Gianluca give examples how to deal with this. At the end, in agenda item 5 and 7, the number 6 seems to be a secret, so sorry for this. Number 5 will give some information about the national FHIR survey that we did, and at the end there should be time for questions and answers. So what is our motivation for doing this at all? As you might be aware, in the European Medicines Agency's network strategy from EMA and HMA, we have the vision to become more data-driven, to become more data-oriented, and to process more and more data in our tools and regulatory activities. This means that data availability in our IT systems will become more and more essential. The second motivation to deal with this topic is our technically new application forms, which are implemented in the PLM portal, former called DADI, will provide improved opportunities to import this application and medicinal product data into the case management tools of consumers. So there is a new opportunity that we can use. And we are in the good situation that due to the UNICOM project, which is a pan-European project financed by the Commission, and due to the collaboration with EMA, we are working on the implementation of the new data standards called ISO IDMP across Europe. So there are some factors there in parallel: higher data availability and the need for more data exchange, new application forms that keep data, and collaborations and projects about ISO IDMP across Europe that helps us to move on in this topic. So just a short explanation. Maybe you are already familiar with UNICOM. For those who are new in these trainings, a short overlook of this. So UNICOM is an innovation action, which was a call from the Commission in the remit of the Horizon 2020 research program. And there are 2 main goals. One is to support cross-border mobility of European patients. And the second is the implementation of IDMP standards in member states, drug bases, and in regulatory activities should be supported, and the usage of EU SPOR shall be fostered. This objective that we're talking today focuses mainly on item number 2. So UNICOM members have received grants from the European Commission that made it possible to work on these objectives. So one of the work packages in the UNICOM consortium is that we are introducing ISO IDMP compliant application forms. So as you are, of course, aware, applying for authorizations for medicinal products and managing their life cycle is a regulated process. And this process is initiated and triggered by electronic application forms. And at the moment, these application forms are not compliant to ISO IDMP. And let's say technical format and the semantic rules of the application forms are not following the ISO IDMP standards. So thus it's currently not possible to start, automate, and feed regulatory processes with IDMP compliant structured data. And the aim of this work packages is to change this situation, to adapt the application forms in a, let's say, structured way and technical way, to move it towards ISO IDMP standards. So this means that in the future, when we receive data via application forms, data will arrive in ISO IDMP language, which implies that we will start to process ISO IDMP compliant data right from the beginning of regulatory activities. So in total, we are 11 national competent authorities that are working on the implementation of ISO IDMP in their IT systems and regulatory processes. In this work package about the application forms, we are 7 of those authorities that are working together. So the Spanish colleagues are developing the PDF representation. So we have ISO IDMP compliant data in XML in the background, but of course for human readability, we still need a PDF representation in the dossier. So our colleagues from Spain are implementing this PDF representation and are also implementing uh, so-called FHIR profiles, which are needed to validate FHIR messages. In Austria, we are acting as the product owner for the PLM portal together with another product owner from EMA. So we have centralized experts and experts about MRP, TCP, and national data together as in the product ownership. And then we have lots of business and technical expertise that do trainings, knowledge exchange, testing, and communication with colleagues from the Netherlands, Germany, our Irish colleagues, Swedish colleagues, and colleagues from Norway. So it's a good showcase for good collaboration across Europe. Our development partner who saw the implementation of the new application forms within the product lifecycle management portal is EMA. And I need to say, although EMA is not an official Unicom partner, so not member of the Unicom consortium, we have a brilliant collaboration in this, in this work. The link of the PLM portal is displayed on the slide at the end. So just to explain the as is, so today applicants fill in legacy PDF forms. These forms already consume some data from SPOR databases, so mainly from organizations, substances, or from controlled dictionary. And at regulatory level, regulators consume the data from these application forms in a proprietary data exchange format. And some of the regulators already automatically extract the data and put it into their regulatory IT systems. In the future, we will replace the legacy PDF forms with a web tool that will be, let's say, the result of data authoring in the web portal. The web portal user interface design will follow the IDMP structure for the variation application, for the initial application, and for the renewal application. For the renewal application, due to the new pharma legislation, there might be a change in the future. So let's focus now on the variation and initial application. And this meeting exactly focuses on the variation form only. So the applicants will use this new web tool, will continue using Spore services, but you can see a new box here. It will also consume data from the Spore PMS in the future. So the Spore Product Management Service will provide master data for existing products, and the new tool will be able to consume data from this repository and populate application forms with this information. The regulators will then receive this information and I make another click, and will then be able to consume IDMP and FHIR compliant messages. So we go away from a proprietary format into a European, or let's say, of course, at the end, internationally agreed standard. So the IDMP and FHIR formatted data messages will then be the basis for data input into regulatory IT systems. Where are we at the where are we today in the development? You can see some green checks. So the consuming spore data, substances, organizations, state, and referentials via FHIR processed. For the variation form, it's online. For centralized products, we are waiting for the national products to open it up for MRP, TCP, and NAPs as well. The initial application forms are in analysis. So we have started to gather requirements, and the renewal application form is pending and on hold and will be the last in the chain. We have established the retrieving of master data from PMS. So there is a linkage between the web tool and the PMS database. And once the national data and the MRP TCP products will be in there, we can, as I said before, start the usage for variations for MRP TCP products. And we have defined the IDMP FHIR format. So all this schema work was done, and I thank all the experts at EMA and in the Unicom Consortium for this tricky part of the exercise to adapt the standard to the needs for our regulatory environment. I need to say in this consuming the FHIR message is a collaboration with Unicom Work Package 4, which is the work package for where all the other NCAs are working to adapt their IT systems. So the first go live release was in November 2022, so nearly a year ago. And this version now covers centralized authorized medicinal products, but the other procedure types, not procedure types, but the other procedures for MRP, TCP, and lab products are on the way and will start soon. With this, I think I hand over to Noel and wish you all a very interesting session. Please collect your questions. We will have time for questions and answers after the presentations. Thanks a lot, and I'm handing over to Noel.
Thank you, Georg, for the introduction and the motivation, and to give a bit of context why we're here and how we came to be. Now, I'm going to start with giving some references. If you have any problems with the screen resolutions or my internet connection, please tell me. I will do my best to give a very comprehensive introduction, because this is the 4th webinar that we are doing, meaning by now everybody here is already an expert, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let me share my screen. And so for the reference, before I actually tell you the references, I'm going to tell you where we are and where we're going right now. So what we have done now, as Georg has mentioned, we have created the FHIR message itself. So the PLM portal can actually produce a FHIR message for a variation. And this was fully specified. We have the documentation of how did we go from DES to FHIR, and which UI elements are right now, which elements in the FHIR message. Now, Gianluca and the Spanish agency was the ones who developed something that we call the PDF creator. So a kind of simple tool, I say simple, that takes a FHIR message and creates an actual EF out of it. So this is an independent function, and I would say an independent even Azure function, if you know the cloud. So something that just even the PLM portal is just a consumer of. The PLM portal creates that FHIR message, it sends it to something we call the PDF creator, and it does an actual EF. Now, this is a quite beautiful part because, well, right now we have the PDF with the FHIR message attached. And the point number 4 is the one where we are here today. We are now training the regulators to understand this message. So NCAs can actually benefit from automatically including the data into their systems. And we want this to happen because the next point would then be, what we're doing here is create an implementation guide and the validation profiles and publish this. And if we publish this, this means industry will then be enabled to create those FHIR messages themselves. And before this can happen, we want NCAs to understand this, which is why we're doing these trainings here. The last point is opening up the PDF API for everybody. So if we have published the implementation guide, the validation profiles, industry can, in theory, they don't need to use the PLM portal. They just can create those messages from the RIM system, use the implementation guide as a specification for it, validate it using the validation profiles, and just create the PDF with the XML automatically from the RIM systems, attach it to the eCDT and submit it to the regulators, who then, in a perfect world, extract this information automatically and feed it into their systems. Now, how much you want to extract is up to every NCA, and this is why we have given these trainings. So this is the 4th in a row, and we had 3 previous trainings. The first one was an overview of the medicinal product, where the coding is inside this slide. The second one was an overview of the actual variation message, so the envelope around the medicinal products. The third one was a drill down, a focus, a spotlight view on the 10 most wanted IDMP fields. So the 10 product fields that we currently have in the system, they come from XCV-MPD, they are maintained in the message, and they give a good overview of the product that is included. Now today, the 4th and probably final training will be around the provenances, the changes, the track changes of not only a variation, but also of the product. So what we call the present and proposed, what everybody knows from the EF as present and proposed, and we want to show how this looks like in the FHIR message. Now, if you have questions or want to contribute, we have 2 SME groups right now, one for the variation and one for the product. The one for the variation is led by Christina and myself, and you can always contact us if you have questions. The other one is done by Veronica and Marcus from EMA and Dino from NCAs, and they are mainly handling the medicinal product parts and processes around this. Of course, there is also UPD and VET, which is in a very similar domain, and they are also handling FHIR messages and well, work a lot and work in advance so we can learn from them. From HL7 itself, there are the connectatons with the Vulkan stream if you want to take part in those, and there is the VRNR group, which is the group that also handles changes around the medicinal product resources, although they handle quite a lot more, so medicinal product is not always a focus there. At the moment in Europe, the medicinal product from a regulatory perspective is our little group, and we are trying together with HL7, with our development at EMA and OS2, to define and specify where to put which IDMP field in FHIR. Now, if you are new to all of this, please look at the videos. Please look at the ISO IDMP implementation guide. There is the link here to version 2.1. There will soon be a next version. There is the FHIR documentation itself. We are working, well, the newest one you can find under buildfhir.org. We are still working with version 4.6. We have already done the mapping to 5.0, but we have not yet done the actual release of the next major version. And when we send out this presentation, we are going to add the links to the data models and the mappings and the examples that we are talking about today. Which brings me to the actual topic of today. So, an introduction to the variation changes, present proposed. So this was the last slide of the last presentation, and which already gave a bit of an overview what is to be expected in this training. So there are different concepts and different UIs and different areas where we want to show present and proposed. Now, there is going to be a user interface, may it be the PLM portal, may it be a RIM system, or maybe somebody in industry has a brilliant idea to create their own user interface. As we are doing FHIR here, which is a message standard, and we're defining the message standard only, we don't actually care who puts it in which fancy AI, UI. We care about how it looks like in FHIR. There will always be some sort of UI though. And this UI will create a FHIR message. This FHIR message will create a PDF because the PDF service is what we give, well, what we use and at some point give to the public. And a present and proposed will be a selection, ideally from an RMS list. If we change, let's see, the ATC code, as we see right here. In the PDF, what we do is we check what is in the message. We automatically see that, all right, there is a change that is on the ATC code. Well, we see there is a change on a resource. We see what's the name of that resource. We see, is this a new change, well, a new thing, an update or a delete? In this case, a new ATC code was entered. What it does is it says for which package or for which product. There is no present value because this was a new one. And the proposed value would then see, all right, an ATC is of type classification. So it says classification. And then we make this a little bit pretty and we say, okay, which one is the actual ATC code? And we write the ATC code. Now, we're going to see how far we can go with a generic algorithm like this to just extract FHIR and make it visible as in a present and proposed way. For now, this is how we do it. So behind the scenes, there is this actual XML where we will have various examples, and Gianluca will give you those examples and how to get the message, and I will tell you what are the attributes behind this. But before we go into it, I've already said the word provenance by mistake. I didn't want to. This is the time I want to say, all right, a change. How do we actually encode a change? We do it by using the FHIR resource provenance. And why are we doing this? Because a provenance is a resource that describes records that are being involved in a process that are changed or otherwise influenced. A provenance provides a critical foundation for assessing authenticity, enabling trust and allowing reproducibility. So if you just look at the provenances, you can see exactly what was changed to this message or to this product. The main things around the provenance is who did something, what was done, what is affected. So who did it is the agent. What was done is the activity, like for us, it is going to be a create, an update or a delete. And what is affected is the entity, the link to the thing that is being changed. Now, from our point of view, we have three types of changes. These are three different examples of provenances, and we're going to go through all of them. But in general, when we speak changes in a variation message, there is a very simple one, which we call a free text change. This is what we have, well, similar to today, a present and proposed text, two text boxes that go hand in hand. The difference is that right now we do allow rich text and pictures inside this. For us, in the message, it means there is going to be an HTML string in it, and there is going to be an encoded picture inside the message if somebody posts a picture in present proposed. This can make the message quite long. We are trying to limit this to 25 megabytes so that the PDF doesn't get too large. Then the three main things that a free text change are these pictures and rich texts. It is a reference to the scope. The scope is the one thing that we have from the variation classification that tells us what is being changed here. And the main example that we're looking here today is the ATC code. Why? Because it's a simple example. It's directly on the medicinal product. So A6 would be an example for a scope. And then we have the references to the products and packages that are affected in this change. So even for free text changes, you have to say in the variation form, well, these are my products. If I have multiples, this could be a work sharing. And these are the packages. If you have, for example, a cup or an Italian product, not all packages have to be affected by this free text change. You can actually select which ones are. And this is why we have the reference to those. Now, there are two other kinds of changes that you can do. An organization change, which is changing one OMS entity to another, but still in a kind of radical way. You are not inside an actual product. You're not saying if this is a manufacturer or if this is something else. You're just saying an organization change. Now, this is always going to be combined with a free text change. So if you do an organization change, you are going to have a provenance for the organization and one for the free text. The organization change will have the present and proposed organization references. And the beautiful thing around these provenances is the actual product change. And these are the ones that will take us the most time to explain. The product change will also always have a free text change included. So you can still have your reference to scopes, your which packages are affected, but the product change also has the present field, so the one that has been changed and is no longer inside that resource. So we do have a copy and have it in the provenance as data, and we have the proposed reference. And I'm going to go into specific detail about this, but in general, lay terms, this is the link to the part of the product inside this bundle that has been updated. Now, going into details of this, my part is going to be to explain the model behind it and explain the different attributes that you will find there. And I understand this is not something that you can just dive into. So please forgive me if I'm having this training as a little bit of an advanced training. So I will not explain again what is a resource and what is an attribute. I do hope that there is a little bit of knowledge around this already. If not, please look at the free trainings before that, where we go into the basics. Here I will introduce just the task itself one more time, the task that we have encoded our variation itself. It's depicted as a resource in FHIR that is called task, and it has a key value pair that has all the information around this. So if I say the task is my variation, it has an identifier, which is the variation procedure number. It has a code that tells me that this is an actual variation. At some point in the future, hopefully we will have other values here like MAA or renewal. And it has a focus. And this is a shortcut that we did for our sakes and for whoever wants to read this, which is a quick link to all the products that are included in this message. This is in theory not entirely necessary, but it is very useful. Now, there is a second task, and today you know this as the contain task, and there can be many here because these are the scopes, the changes. You can have an A6, you can have two A2 scopes, you can have 5, well, all sorts of mixtures of scopes in one variation. And this is where we have these contain tasks. Now I have contained here with a little asterisk because in the next version of our message, they will actually move not to be contained, but to have a reference to the main task, which is a small change. NCAs are already have been made aware of this. Implementation has now finished and the release will happen quite soon. Now, for the identifiers, well, for the attributes, the main one is the identifier. And this is something that we kind of created ourselves. It is a mixture of the scope itself, so A6 or A3 in this case, concatenated with the type of the change, for example, type 1B. And then it has a number like 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have two A3 1B scopes, it will be one is called A3 1B1 and the other one will be A3 1B2. Of course, it has the RMS value of the scope itself, so the ID of the A3 scope. Then again, it has a bunch of key value inputs, and we're using those for, well, you can tag things as, for example, Article 5. You can have documentation checks, you can have condition checks on this. And this is where we put this information. I'm not going to repeat this slide later on. So this is where we come from. All the provenances are based on one of these tasks or multiple of these tasks. So this is where we see here the link based on, and this is how we we switch between task, or we reference between task and provenance. The next 3 slides are going to be on the 3 different provenances, where you can see the based on is going to the top, that is no longer visible here. So all of the 3 provenances that we have are all just normal provenances of a specific type. So we have a type in there. Right now we have this as an RMS value, but it is always going to be fixed. So an HTML provenance, an HTML free text change will always have the 997 ID. And this is how you can see what kind of change is happening here. There is then something we call a variation grouping ID. This was introduced by us because it can combine, well, if you just have free text, it doesn't tell you anything. You don't need it. But later on in the next slide, you will see this is going to be used to combine an organization change with a free text change. We have the present and proposed text in HTML form. And just as a disclaimer warning, I want to reiterate this. This can contain images and rich text, meaning this is HTML code. We have an extension for present proposed ASMF. We needed this because this is what the EF can do right now in an ideal world. And once we have the full structure changes, we will just remove that one because it will actually be part of the ingredient documentation. There is the agent, as I have said before, the organization that has submitted this change. Now, most of the time, this is going to be an industry applicant. But this can be as part of a variation. This can be as part of, well, it depends what PMS is going to do when they do changes. If they also create provenances, then they would, for example, have QPP updates in there. If they don't, it's just going to be the organization that has submitted the variation. And then what we have is something called target, which is a reference, and a product and a package shortcut. Now, this is the link to the medicinal product resource or the packaged product resource. Now, in case of an HTML change, this is going to be the same. So the link here is not going to be different. This is going to be different if we handle actual product changes. Right now, for this one, it's just going to be which packages are affected, which products are affected. As this is free text, we're not diving into more detail. It's just those two resources. Now, the organization change, and please, if you have any questions, write them in the text. I'm going to stop after about 2-3 slides and take any questions. So the organization change is very similar. It also has a fixed value for the type, which is just 998. Now, it is actually using the variation grouping ID. So if you have a free text change plus an organization change to say what kind of organization change this is how you combine these two changes and you know they belong together. What it has in addition is the unstructured current resource. And this is the reference to the current organization. And it has the target, which is the reference to the proposed organization. Now, both of these organization resources are included in the bundle. We again have the agent, and we again have the target and the product shortcut. So difference is really just the two resources organization. The reason why we don't link directly to OMS is because there can be contact details in here that OMS doesn't have, like email and phone number. The other reason is that a present organization is not always from OMS. It can just be that somebody entered something that is no longer existent in OMS. For the proposed one, you will always have an OMS ID. Now we come to the third part. And so if you can do these two, like free text change and you extract the information, and organization text, you extract the information, this is where we are right now. And this is what you can implement already. It already gives you some benefits. If you want to do this, you can right now. The next one is the product change. The product change we are currently doing as a prototype. We only have 3 possible product changes that you can do in the user interface. In theory, if you just create the message, all of them are already possible. And our FHIR tool can already create all of these, nearly all of these. We're like 90%. The thing is, the user interface right now in the PLM portal and the release that is happening right now cannot yet do this, meaning you don't have to actually implement this right now. But we still want to give you the training on how to do it, to see, because we will get there sooner or later. And we want to already give you an understanding of this. And if you want to experiment around, if you're interested in this and see how this works, ATC is the example that we're going for right now. And this is for us to learn, for you to learn, for everybody to understand how in the future will we handle product changes, structured product changes. Even though right now we're just doing prototypes here, but prototypes exactly how they will look like. So we could call them evolutionary prototypes. Now, the ID of the type is just 999. The grouping ID, again, is being used because even a product change will always come together with a free text. And the addition here that we have now is the activity. So the activity will tell you if this whole thing is a create, an update, or delete. And it will have the product shortcut. And this is the link between the change itself, so the provenance, and the packages. Now, this is relevant because changes might not affect everything. And it might be different than the target that is actually being changed. It is very likely that this is different. So you can see here on the left-hand side, the target, the proposed one, is a generic resource. And it can be any resource from a product. It can be an ingredient, an organization, a package, a document, whatever. And this will just have one specific file resource out of all the products that we have included in the bundle. And it will be already one of the actual proposed ones that are there. So you can just take the product that is in the bundle and say, all right, this is my proposed. But if you just look at this, and there can be, well, quite a lot of information in there. If you want to know, all right, what has now actually changed from this product, you have to look at the provenance. And this is the use case for it, because you could just take whatever is in the message and just update your database and you will be fine. But if you want to know what has changed, and if you don't want to do the text comparison yourself, we did it for you. And we did it by doing provenances. Now, there is going to be a slight difference between update, create, and delete. So update and create work in a very similar way. You have your present value. So you have this target element that has a present value, that has again, I say CRUD, there is no actual read here, it's just CUD. So create, update, and delete. And it has a URL to a specific element. So not only is the provenance going to tell you which resource is changed from that product, it is going to link to the exact element that is being changed by a FHIR URL. And it is going to save the current value. So the one thing that it was before that we say is our present, because this is no longer in the FHIR bundle. So this is just kind of a backup. So we can show the present and proposed, and we can show the comparison between. Now this is update and create. Now delete. For delete changes, the present value element that has been deleted, and that is no longer there. The target parent reference to the resource whose element is being deleted. And the path is going to be the path in the parent element where the element being deleted was. So for the deletion, we cannot show you the actual thing that is being deleted because it's gone. So what we show you is the FHIR path where it was. Now, this is the full model. So I've shown you all the extracts here. And just to give you a bit of a context, I'm going to show you actually how all of this fits together. I'm going to use the actual model so I can zoom in. Most of you know this already. This has just been updated right now because we have done another overview and checked if everything is up to date. So we're going to release this again with the latest version now. So everything I have presented right now, you can find here. And this is also the model that you can refer to. It's a conceptual model, meaning it will not contain all the elements, everything that is in there. For that, you have to look in the XML or in the presentation I have just given, but it gives you an overview and a place where to start. It should be understandable for business experts. So this is not for developers, although developers can have a look at it. This is how business experts and developers can communicate with each other to tell them, all right, look, this task here is my procedure. This is where please you start from. This task here is my scope. This is what I'm interested in. This is the documentation, the conditions I want maybe seen on my screen, extracted information. And then we have the three types of provenances, the HTML change, the organization change, and the product change. And they all link to either a product or package, and the product change also links to a generic resource that has been changed. This is how it works, and there is, for everybody's confusion, a fourth provenance on here. For now, we are going to ignore this. The reason why we have a fourth provenance is that a signature in FHIR is also depicted as a provenance classically. And we do have the two people that actually draft this, and in theory, well, you can't really sign it, but is what we call signatories in the EF, and they are as the fourth type of provenance that we have of type signature. So just for the changes, you can ignore this, but be aware if you just take and extract the provenances, there will be something unexpected here. Right. So I believe this was my last slide for the okay. So for the explanation, just as mentioned, the model is what you have seen right now, and this is what business and domain experts will understand. The PDF is the output of this, and the FHIR structure is what, well, not only data models, but also business experts and domain experts can understand. This is what you get from the website. Now, where it becomes very IT specific is the XML representation and the XPaths, how you extract the data. And today we are showing, well, all of this. Now, before I hand over to my dear colleague Gianluca, I will check if there are any questions.
Yes, there are 3 of them.
Right. So thanks, Georg. Is there for Austria already any place as national repository accessible for product download?
Yeah,
Georg, this is a question for you.
Yes, I will type in 2 links to Ursula that you can give a try. On the second link, it's a link to a GitLab server where the national data will be provided. And when you go there, colleagues, you will also find a download for a FHIR representation of medicinal product data. Please don't be irritated. This is a different FHIR implementation than displayed here. So please use the CLAML download, CLAML. I will type it into the chat. And the FHIR export, as we learn it today here, according to the EU implementation guide, will be prototyped next year. So maybe from next year or in future times, there will be a FHIR download familiar or compatible with the material you see here. Thank you. I think the second question, Noel, is something that you can explain where to find the validation guides.
So the implementation guide, as I've mentioned before. So what we're doing right here is the training for NCAs. At the same time, we're also working on the actual implementation guide with the validation profiles. Now, once this is done, this is going to be the main source. Now, we have not published this yet, and we are working on the profiles itself, and we have started only about 2 months ago. Once we are around 50–60% done, we are currently investigating the possibility to publish this. So of course, this is going to be together with our partner from EMA. So we want to have something published that fits everybody. We will also talk to our colleagues from PMS because this contains the profiles for the product itself. And there is going to be a bit of a talk about, all right, which version. So because currently we have 3 versions, we have the 4.3 from PMS, we have the 4.6 from the Variation, and the 5.0 that we aim to go to. So before we publish the implementation guide, we still need to have some discussion, but the goal is to do this next year. Now, third question, can you please share the link for the FHIR to HTML end user easily readable platform if available? So there are many convert XML to HTML to make this a little bit more beautiful. There are some that we use just for our day-to-day business. I know Rick has implemented one, for example, and I do believe Rick is here on the call. If you want to share yours, please be my guest. Fourth question, New one, our so-called ASB. Okay, sorry, this is the response from Georg. Right, thank you for your questions. I would now like to hand over to, sorry, can you please confirm what IG guide you are referring to? Is it the ISO IDMP? So when I say implementation guide, there is something called FHIR implementation guide on the FHIR websites. Usually when you do profiles, you also do a FHIR implementation guide at some point to publish these profiles. And they are going to be available at ho7.org. And this is what we're aiming for as well. The ISO IDMP implementation guide from the SPOR team is a Word document that contains information about what each attribute actually is from a business point of view and the FHIR path inside this Word document, but no actual XMLs or profiles. So if you want to go into a more detailed view of this, what FHIR needs is an implementation guide on the FHIR website. Right, we get more questions. So I'm gonna just talk about those. So how to gain access to FHIR, where to get data for product or variations. On FHIR itself is lack of information how to gain access to it. On SPOR portal production section is not accessible. So one by one, the easiest way to get the FHIR message is to just go to the PLM portal, try it out for yourself, register. If you are an NCA, you can get an NCA role. If you work on the well, we are still in UAT for NCA products. Quite soon we will publish the NAP products, and then you can even go into the production system and just export one yourself. Now, as part of this presentation, we will just publish a couple of examples. So if you don't want to go through this whole registration process, we're just going to give you something to play around. FHIR itself the information is available on build.fhir.org, which is quite a lot of documentation. And on the SPOR portal, product section is not yet accessible. That is correct. So for the products, all we have right now is the EUIG. Right, this is it. So Gianluca, please introduce us to the actual examples and how to get information out of these examples.
Okay, thank you, Noel. Welcome, everybody. And let's see, since Noel explained us the business and theoretical part of this matter, let's dive a bit inside the more technical question. We will see some examples of variation changes. And as you can see on the slide, we have a disclaimer reminding us that there are two possible strategies to consume FHIR XML data. One would be using a library, object-oriented library for it, and the other one is using XPath. All the examples we will see are using this second strategy, so we will see a lot of XPath on them. So to start, some basic XPath rules. XPath is a querying language that allows us to extract data from an XML document and read those data. It is not thought to be used to change the XML content, but only to read it. In XPath, all the elements belongs to a namespace. In case of FHIR, the namespace is hl7.org/FHIR. And if you want to target an XPath element or node, you need to target it by using its name. And in case of hierarchies of nodes, the nodes inside the hierarchy have their name separated by the forward slash symbol. Also, you can target attributes of an element. They are targeted by, once again, by their name, but in this case, you must prefix the name with an @ symbol. And then what is, in my view, the most powerful feature of XPath is the possibility to query or filter sets of nodes inside the document. And that can be done by using the square brackets syntaxes. And you have also some support for functions, more or less advanced. And there are several versions of the specification. So you must choose one of them. One more important thing is that you need an interpreter to be able to use XPath. So an external library that can provide you the functionality of using XPath. And last point of this list is a tip, a personal tip. I do strongly suggest to use variables to store intermediate results of the query you are making for two reasons. The first one is you will have your code, you will end up with code more readable. And second one is that you can reuse those intermediate results to make different queries on them. So, having already studied the XPath theory, let's see a concrete example. This is the first of the three changes Noel mentioned, is the free text change. In the slide, you can see on the left part, the fragment of the logical model Noel already showed us before. And on the right side, a table that maps those concepts to XPath queries. The table has three columns. The first column is the name of a variable. I told to use variables. This is why. This way I can put in sequence all the intermediate steps that allow me to get to a result. And each step uses the variable calculated in the previous step. So first column is the name of the variables. Second column is the XPath query that stored the results into the variable. And the third column is a description of what the current query does. So first of them, first line, let's extract all the provenances from the bundle. So the query simply take all the resource inside the bundle whose type is provenance. This will give you all the provenances contained into the bundle. And then, as Noel mentioned before, we have 4 types of provenances, 3 of them being changes, and the 4th type being the signature provenance. So we need to exclude the signature provenance from the others. So this is what exactly the second query does. So the variable change provenances contains from among all provenances. Here you see we are using a square bracket syntax to make a filter. We are excluding all the provenances that have the element activity having a child coding with a child code with a child value that must be different to the code corresponding to the value of a test. Here, this is written inside another variable called const underscore activity code that test, but that would be a numerical value. Again, please use variables so your code is more legible. So go to the third line. We have all change provenances, and we can filter them entering into the collection by using a concrete variation grouping ID. So let's say we have a variable called grouping ID having a concrete value, and we can filter in the query taking all the change provenances that have in the extension called variation grouping ID, a value ID whose value is the grouping ID we want to filter. Having done that, in the variable provenances in group, we will have only change provenances that belong to the group whose grouping ID is the one contained inside the variable grouping ID. And in this case, we can now filter by provenance type. If you remember before, Noel told that each provenance type has a value, a concrete type value. One is 997, the other one is 998, and the other one is 999. In this case, we are filtering HTML change. This variable contains the value with 997, and we will have all the provenances of type HTML change. By the way, the name of this variable is not good. It should be in text provenances. So it is an error. And the last two lines allows us to, having already the provenance of type HTML change in our hands, to take the two textual values of present and proposed text. So each of them is contained inside an extension. One extension is called unstructured current value, and the other one is called unstructured proposed value. So each of them can be queried by using each of those two queries. And as the note says, the text is HTML encoded. We will see this in this other slide. This is an example of our provenance on the right side of the slide. If you cannot see it, please let me know. I'll try to. No, okay. This is a provenance, has a lot of extensions related to products and packages the change is affecting, but two of them are the unstructured current value HTML, and the other one is unstructured proposed value HTML. Both of them have inside the HTML text HTML encoded. So if I, for example, try to run a query of the ones that are on the left part of the slide, you can see that the two queries are the same. The only thing that varies is the URL of the extension. In both cases, the starting of the return value is what is shown in the first of the 2 points in yellow. And then once you decoded it, you will see that it's an HTML fragment. Why the text is encoded inside the string? This is because the HTML fragment can contain characters that are reserved in XML. So we need to escape them. If you see, for example, the character less than is encoded with an entity sequence that is ampersand, LT, and a semicolon. The same happens for the greater than symbol or the double quote symbol. And there are many more that suffer the same change. So that was about the text change. In case of the organization change, we would make the same steps we made before, but as I said before, since I have already cached inside the variable called provenances in group all the provenances of a given grouping ID, I can reuse this variable to extract the provenances of type organization change. So the second line has the same query that the corresponding line of the other slide, but in this case, we are filtering for the value 998. So organization change provenances. And for each of those changes, we can take the present organization ID and the proposed organization ID. Please remember, as Noel said before, those elements are not the current organization, but rather references to them. So we can take the IDs from those references with those two queries, and then having each of those two IDs, we can get to the organization by querying all the organization and filtering, searching for its ID value, assigning in each case the idea of the present and the proposed organization. So this way, with the latest two queries, we will be able to have the two organizations. This is the example for the organization. As you can see in the lower image, we have the one provenance that has two extensions that are, an extension that is unstructured current resource holding the reference to the present organization, and then the target element of the provenance being the proposed organization. So we extract the two IDs in those two ways, the first query and the second one. As you can see, the second one is simpler because it's simply the target of the organization, of the provenance. We get the two IDs, and then the third query, organization details, shows us how to take, for example, the name of the proposed organization. So in this case, we would have the string highlighted in yellow in the second image, 101 Care Farm GmbH. If you have any question, please, you can post it into the chat and I will answer. Yeah, I will try to answer the moment the question comes. We have seen already the first two types of change. We need to see the last and toughest one, I would say, the product change. This is a bit more complex than the other two. So in order to explain it clearly, we have created two business examples. This slide tells about the first business example. This is an example of a create and an update change. We want to change an ATC code on several products. There are three products involved: Novomix, Abseamed, and Cifrol. And the changes we want to do on them are to create change on the first product, Novomix, the same to create changes on the other two products. This is because if I want to propose a new value for something, this value will be propagated to all the medicines the change is affecting. And then on the second element, we want also make an update on the ATC code A10AD05, changing its ATC pending attribute from false to true. So we have examples of both creating and updating changes. And I will show you in a live XML document the two examples marked in yellow. It's important to say that this is an example made by a software developer that doesn't know anything about ATC codes. So if you see an ATC code that doesn't match with some medicinal product, please forgive the piano player. And this is the second example that, again, we have several products, we have several types of changes, but one of those changes is a delete change. And in this case, we will see on the live XML document only the delete change. That is the one we have not seen in the other example. So that would be an example of a provenance of type product change. In this case, we have the provenance affects three products. This is because we have three product shortcut extensions and also three target. For each of those targets in the reference, you can see the after the forward slash, the ID of the product. The first one ended in 767, second one in 557, and the latest one ending in 90. Those three products suffer several changes. The first one, only two changes, because we have only two target elements. The second one, three changes, three target elements. And the last one, two changes as well. So we are in the situation we saw in this table. This is an example of a create change. That is, we have already opened one of those extensions we saw before. And we can see here that the data operation is a create, and there is an URL extension that contains the ID of the element being changed. If you search for this ID inside the document, you will land on the element being changed. That is a classification element. You can see it in the second image, whose ID is the one that was mentioned inside the provenance. So this is the element being created. In case of an update change, we have the same mechanism for the proposed element, that is an ID pointing to the element being changed, but we have also a current value extension. In this case, a current value extension is a value Boolean. It can be a value square bracket X in FHIR, that is a value of any data type. In this case, it's a Boolean value. So the old value is false. And if we jump using the ID in the value URL value to the resource being changed, you will see that it's a value Boolean with value true. In short, this update change models a change of a value Boolean from false to true. And then the last case is a delete change. In this case, as Noel said before, we have no ID of the element being changed because, being deleted because the element doesn't exist anymore. But we rather have the value being changed embedded into the provenance inside the current value extension. So in this case, we are deleting ATC code of zoledronic acid from an element. Which element? The medicinal product definition referenced by the target element. In this case, the UAT blah 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 ended in 010 ID of the product. So let's see this in like example. So I will show you two XML documents. In the first example, I will show you how the update and create changes inside a provenance are constructed. And the second example, I will show you a delete example. So let me go to the examples. This would be the document that models are create and update examples. As you can see, this is a provenance. This is a change provenance, and I say this is a change provenance, sorry, a product change provenance, because its provenance type is product change, ends in 999. Then also affects three products, because we have three product shortcut and three target. So three resources being changed, and since the reference of the of each target starts with medicinal product definition, that means that we are changing a medicinal product. And then we have a product with 2 changes, one with 3 and one with 2. Let's open up the first target element of the second product, and we will see that it's an update. Update that has an old value that is a value boolean, as we saw before, whose value is false. And the element being changed, that is, if I want to know the new value, I need to use this link to jump somewhere in the document and get to the value being changed. This is what I call the hyperspace jump, because this ID can make you land in whichever place inside the document. In this case, we land on an extension called ATC pending of a classification element. This classification element is an ATC code. This is the code, the concrete code, and it has now, because this is the proposed value, has now the value of true. And we have just seen that the old value was false. Okay? So this is the example of an update element. Very quickly, I'll show you a create. It's the same as before. We don't have current value, and we can jump to an element. In this case, we land on a classification element, not on an extension contained in it. And this is the ATC code being created. And this is the actual code. One remark about that, we have already implemented a change that for each ATC code, we provide 2 different coding elements. One is the RMS one that has this code and as a display, the human readable name of the ATC code. And another one that has this code, the WHO, and the same human readable display element. This is already implemented and will be released in short. And last one, very quickly, the delete one. So we have, once again, one provenance. And this third product being changed, that is this one, has 3 changes. And the third of them, instead of being a target element, is a target path. This is the way we represent a deletion operation. But also, since it has a target activity, we can clearly see that this change is a deletion change. So in this case, we have the path in the parent of the element that contained the element we want to change, and that is a classification element. This classification element belongs to this resource, that is a medicinal product definition resource, whose ID is this one. And the element we are deleting is inside the current value extension, and is a value codable concept that contains this information. In English, we are deleting inside this product, we are deleting its ATC code, this one, okay? So this is the ATC code we are deleting from the product. How do we do everything I've just shown? Those are the XPath queries we need to perform those steps, So the first variable is, once again, from the provenance contained in a given group, we are filtering by provenance type, and in this case, we are using the code 999. So we get only the provenances contained into the group that are of type product change. Then, if I want all the products affected by, for example, the first of the change provenances, I can put a square bracket 1 on the collection to take the first of those elements. And then if I query by using /target, I will get all the targets of this provenance. If I want to know the type of change in the provenance, I can query its activity, getting a value that can be create, update, or delete. And this is at the resource level, not the elements, at the resource level. And then if I want the target of the resource being changed, I need to take the reference of the target, split it by /. Remember, in case of medicinal products, it's a medicinal product definition /one ID. So if I want the ID, I need to split by / and taking the substring after the /. So I use this function and I take the resource ID. And then if I want to know all the elements of these products that are being changed, I need to query the extension whose URL is target element. So I will take all the changes of this concrete product. In the example we saw, there were 3 changes for the second of the product. So if I run this query on this product, I will get 3 entries. And then if all those target elements suffer a concrete change type, that can be an addition, a deletion, or a change, an update. So its inner extension called target activity will give me the type of change the element of the resource is receiving. We have 2 levels of activity. One level is at the resource level, and the other one is at its element levels. So we can have an update on a resource that can have, let's say, 3 target elements. One is a creation, one is an update, and one is a delete activity. Okay, so this second one is at element level, while this target resource activity is at the resource level. So when we have all those information about the change, we need to get to the actual value present and proposed. So we need to make those 3 last queries. The first one is to get the current value in case of a deletion or an updating. And this is basically the first element, the first child element of the current value extension. And as I said before, it's a value any type element. That is, depending on the concrete change, it will be a Boolean, a string, or even a more complex element. And then if I want to take the element, the ID of the element being changed, if you remember, we had an ID that started with a ## sign. So we need to target those elements and take the substring that is after the ## sign. And with this element, with this ID, we can, at the end, make the hyperspace jump. This is in the PDF generator. This is the only query we have with a / before it. That means all this expression without these square brackets means all the children of the XML document at any level. So as I said, it's a hyperspace jump because you can land in whichever position inside the document. I think it is all I had to tell you about that. So I will hand over back to to Noel. And if there are no questions, I will give the floor back to Noel. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianluca. And thank you for this very detailed explanation. Now, everybody should be an expert and just be able to do this themselves. And in addition to this, I will just give a little bit more information on the content included in the XML, as well as then speaking on the topic, everybody does this themselves. We did a survey and we actually got some good results to see who is already working on this. And I just wanted to share this briefly. Ideally, you can now see my screen. And I wanted to give a heads up because we are about to release a new version of the XML that we internally kind of call the confidentiality version. So we are going to walk with the rule that only product resources that are being changed will actually be inside the bundle, meaning you will no longer have 100 manufacturers and ingredients inside a variation message, but only the ones that are actually being changed. Now, following this, there are a couple of rules. One is that we don't do half measures. We are not going to do changes on on specific attributes. Whenever anything in a resource changes, we are going to include the entire resource and just link to the attribute that is being changed. The second one was an old movie, Know Thy Neighbors. If a resource has a link to another resource, we are going to include the link, but we are not going to include the other resource if it is not being changed. So if you have something referencing an organization, if the organization is not changed, you're going to have the link to that because you can always, this is going to be a permanent ID. You can always look it up. And this is what is in the XML. Now, the resources that are being used, I just gave a quick list here. There are the three main resources of the actual procedure management, which is task provenance and payment notice. There are some others like regulated authorizations, but they are mainly on product. We do use them in procedure management as well. Now, the interesting part for today's presentation is the provenances that can be changed. So the ones that are part of the product, like the product itself, the package, the admin product, the manufactured item, ingredient. The substance definition we are not going to change because this is just a link to the substance. We can do the device definition. The activity definition we are using to envelop the operation of the manufacturer. We have document references in the product that in theory can be changed if you change an ASMF. We have the clinical use issue, which is depicting the indication of a product. So provenance could link there. It could link to the entire resource then, like a new resource is being created, one is being removed, or just a change to a specific one. We use the organization because we have contact details that are not in OMS. And we use the practitioner role to encode people, persons, contact person, for example, that can also be changed. Now, if we go to this, that we no longer include all of the resources inside a message, there are going to be some resources that are always included. So we just need that in order to actually create a PDF and just to give some context to people that read the message. So for example, the medicinal product is always going to be included, even if there are no changes to the resource itself. Same for the ingredient definitions, because we want the substance names, the regulated authorizations of type marketing authorization, because we need the MA number. The package product definitions are only going to be included if they are part of that change. If orphan is affected, then orphan will be included. Same for the other regulated authorizations. If pediatric is part of it, pediatric will be included. And from an organization point of view, we will always have the MA holder and the regulator. And yeah, and the payment notice. And that's it. That was our presentation, our training, I would say, for the provenances. So for how to track changes on medicinal products. Just to give you a bit of an insight where we are in Europe right now and maybe some motivation. We did a survey across all the agencies. We got 11 responses. Who is currently doing what? So we, at the moment, have people that already extract information from the DES into their system. Actually, 4 agencies have this in production right now. It's not just Austria and Spain, it's also Italy, and it's also Sweden. We have 2 agencies that are currently developing this, which is Ireland and Germany. And we have quite a lot of other agencies that are planning this. Right now, they will evaluate if they're gonna still use the DES or if they will just implement the new FHIR-based versions, because it just gives benefits. Now, there are agencies who are already actually starting with the FHIR development. There are agencies who have finished this. So in the very late development, we have Spain, Austria, and Germany. There are agencies that are thinking about it, like Portugal, Slovenia. And we have a lot of agencies that have planned it for later. And just out of the 11 responses that we got. So I do believe maybe we have even more. Now, there are options of how much information you want to extract from this, and every agency decides this for themselves. How much do they want to show the PDF, and how much do they want to just take from the XML and put into their case management systems? Now, 7 agencies decided to go for, well, actually, if I include those, 9 want to include the basic procedure information and product information, and 2 of them actually all of the procedure information. So in theory, you could go as far as you don't even need to open the PDF, because you can just extract everything and show in your case management. And then for the product information, it is also the option, we will have something in the PDF, or you can just take the resources from the message, import whatever you need in your case management, and quite a lot of agencies, well, 6 to be exact, for now that we know of, are planning to do this. This gives me joy, because it shows that what we're doing here is actually gonna improve the ways of working. Now, this was our last training. We did a survey if people want to follow up, if they are interested in participating in an effort to broaden our knowledge with FHIR and with extracting this message. Because you could always go just to a general FHIR training and try to understand how it works. But what we give here is a very specific one to the resources and the attributes that we need as regulatory authorities, which of course is quite a lot of value. Now, most agencies are actually very interested in this. Now, we're not going to do more trainings. What we have thought of are kind of like regulatory authority connectathons. Georg lovely named them ratons. So we're going to do some surveys to see who exactly would like to be part of this. What it would be early next year, well, in the first half of the next year. The idea is to actually meet in person, and the idea is to bring your own laptop. So send a developer, send an analyst, somebody who understands what is needed, and meet on site. And we would provide 4 people that can train, that know about FHIR. And whoever wants to do something, everybody works with a different technology, of course, but extracting information should work in a similar way. So the knowledge that we can give is how to get what out of the FHIR message. So participants would be trying out to actually implement this, get the information, and put this into their own systems. We can share experiences from the agencies who are further with the agencies who are just starting. And yeah, it's a way that business and IT can work together. So ideally, we always have 2 people per agency. Now, that's it for today. We'll see if we follow this up like this by a little bit of survey. If you want more information, you can always come to the Unicorn website. We will publish this presentation on YouTube, and I will say thank you for attending this. It was a pleasure doing it. And I would just hand over to Georg if you want to say any final words, or if there are any questions, please post them now in the chat while Georg is saying goodbye.
Yeah, thank you, Noel, and thank you, Gianluca, for this real comprehensive explanation and presentation of, as you've seen, of a quite complex topic. But colleagues, I think it sounds quite complex at the beginning if you see all these variables and XPath expressions, but please take some time, rewatch the video on YouTube, get familiar with all the slides that we presented, and give a try step by step. So take one of the application forms, including the new FHIR message, and give a try, and try to find out your best way how to utilize the data extractions for your IT systems. If you're interested in the ratons, I kindly ask you to give a message to Noel or myself so that we know that this offer is liked by you. We will try to find a good date next year, 2 times before June 2024, because in May, the Unicorn project, unfortunately, will come to an end. So again, thanks a lot, Noel. Thanks a lot, Gianluca. Thanks a lot for all the experts. Some are also joining here, bringing the FHIR topic forward in Europe. Have a good day, have a good weekend, and hope to see some of you at the upcoming ratons. Thanks also to Luca for the organization of the meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.